everybody. Happy Friday evening. It is April 22nd, 8:17 p.m. We're on a bit earlier today because of time restraints, but we're ready to talk some Philadelphia Union. As always, I am one of your co-hosts, Mike Pereira. To my right or left, depends on how you're looking at it, my co-host, Dave Miller. How you doing tonight, Dave?
Yep. Yeah, I'm good. I mean, obviously, just a tip on tonight, just recovering from work, looking forward to the weekend. How about yourself?
Yeah, about the same. I ended up being a last minute application for tomorrow's match. I will be there tomorrow at 3 p.m. for the Union game, so that kind of got me the extra juice to get to Friday, as well as my friendly beverage next to me as well. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of get to started with this conversation. As you and I were just talking off air, we have a lot to discuss. We have the press conference, we have the U.S. Open Cup drama that we've seen so far. We have the schedule that is May, the May Madness. We had March Madness, now we have May Madness. But before we get into everything, I'm going to do the sponsors real quick and then get right into the show. First up, we have Triple Threat Bets at TRPLE Threat Bets or triplethreatwagers.com. We cover college basketball. Myself and Triple Threat Bets cover college basketball year round. Right now, we're focusing on the transfer portal. So please follow one of us to find out all about that fun news right there. Next up, we have Manscaped. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code AATBirds at manscaped.com. Of course, we have OddsJam, the number one software platform for sportsbook bandits. They use an arbitrage calculator so that you never lose a bet again. Sign up today at oddsjam.com. We have Statement Games at statementgames.com for a fun new way to fantasy sports and entertainment. You can win gift cards, prizes, and it's completely free to sign up at statementgames.com. Of course, as one of our newest sponsors that we've mentioned recently, we have Vinny's Pizza and Restaurant in Allentown, PA. They're serving Italian cuisine with burgers, pizza, pasta, everything you can think of, sandwiches, and more, available for pickup or delivery. Order today at vinnyspizzapa.com. And last but not least, we have the Across the Pitch gear that you can be purchased at the AAT Sports Network shop. Johnny does all the work for that. He actually had this big Jay Wright Villanova piece that was going around, and now Jay Wright's retiring. So, hopefully we'll try to get some of that merchandise out there for everybody to kind of grab while it's still available. But Dave, after that, I'm going to shoot it to you. Can you kind of touch on the press conference that you covered this past week?
It was quite obviously the news. It was just we came into that press conference in about 10 minutes beforehand. As you mentioned, the May Madness, sort of that is the reason it became May Madness. It displayed itself. The U.S. Open Cup, the Union have been drawn away to Orlando in the round of 32. And that is sandwiched in between a lovely sort of road trip, where they got to go to Nashville, then they have to go to LAFC, and then they have to quickly leave LA, go across the other end of the country to Orlando and play on the road in Orlando before then coming back to face the Rebels a couple of days later. So, again, it's going to be a fun, big stretch for the Union on Twitter. So before going to the press conference again, it's going to be an interesting sort of period. This is a sort of run that you will look at in the later periods of the season and go, okay, this is that sort of stretch and that sort of thing. If they do come on, okay, they struggled in this sort of stretch and the going got tough,
Mm-hmm.
The going got tough. They will hopefully come good with it, or if they don't, then you sort of say, okay, look, they struggled in these sort of periods. Obviously, they weren't prepared, or they just didn't have enough to win the big games. But obviously, Jim again, as he always is, remains composed. He's remained composed. He's remained optimistic. And looking at the press conference, obviously the big one already, which straight away was the Jaden Nelson red card, was the non-red card on Jaden Nelson.
The red card.
When Jim essentially opened the press conference after being asked. Obviously the sorts because Jaden Nelson got a 1-game suspension, and apparently officials, a panel, whatever you want to call it, spoke to Jim and said that they got it wrong. Them and VAR got it wrong, and they got an apology. But again, obviously this isn't from Jim; it's come from me. It's ridiculous. An apology does nothing in favour of the Union. So yeah, and I guess they've had their luck go their way throughout the start of the season, and I sort of badged on about it last week. It was always something was going to go against them, and unfortunately, that was sort of one of those moments that did go against them. And you could argue didn't cost them the game, but certainly played a massive factor onto winning. But again,
Yeah.
he still says that he was frustrated. Jim was said he was frustrated by the loss against Montreal, but they want to. This is a great opportunity, and they want to make up for the lost points by beating Montreal. He said he was
Mhm.
happy at the fact that they created so many chances and got into good attacking positions. But again, the negative was they couldn't score more than a goal.
Yeah.
Again, obviously, Makarua played his second game or started the second game. Looked lively at times, had a couple of good chances. Herbert Jim again sort of said like there was sort of some comparisons to Uar and Gazdag, whereas they both just come across after playing Daniel's case a full season. Mikel's
Yeah.
case, I think he didn't play like the final 5 or 6 games, so essentially almost a full season. But then he had visa issues; it took him ages to get to the country. So
Hmm.
those are sort of the comparisons that Jim drew upon in terms of the progression, what it's been like for those two. Again, I mean Montreal, I believe they've not lost a game since they played the Union. I mean, I
Well,
know they've
it's
lost
funny.
once since they last played the Union in the MS.
Yeah. It's
Sorry, go
funny you
ahead, Tom.
mentioned Montreal. No, it's fine. And I'm going to bring up Steven's comment here as well. So he's calling that UA is going to score. I have a couple things that I picked out from some research this week that agrees with him that either Carranza or Mikael will score. So we'll get into that in a few minutes because I want to kind of
Okay.
dabble on what I found there. But anything on any other notes on your part from the presser or anything
Um,
that Jim was talking about?
I'm not really. I mean, it wasn't really. I mean, again, there's no real injury news to
No,
come across. I
thankfully.
think the Union have got a full. They've got a full bit of help, which is always great.
Mhm.
But I think
Yep.
Jim was, just again, he was just trying to focus on the road ahead as opposed to looking back on the Toronto game. And I mean, yeah, too right, Mike. Don't
Mhm.
don't jinx it.
That's true.
But
I
yeah, I think
shouldn't.
he's just trying to look ahead. Try and look ahead as opposed to looking back and sort of focusing on something that's now gone.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I agree with you. I, I think that's a great point. The Toronto game, I think a lot of people are upset about the Toronto match. I mean, one, you can't win them all, so it is what it is. You got your first
no,
loss out of the way. As you mentioned last week, we just had all this good fortune come our way. Eventually, it's going to come back around on you, and I think that's what happened.
yeah,
You had a bad red card, or non-red card, which I think everybody agrees should have been, as we've discussed. And then you had the goal that was brought back from Kai. I mean, imagine you score that goal and Kai, gets that towards the end of the half. It's 2-1, and you're feeling a lot better about this game now.
so
Um,
yeah,
that's soccer. I mean,
going
that's
with
just
all
unfortunate what
momentum.
happens sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah, I think again, just said again, it's just it definitely changed the momentum of things. I think again, I know everyone's sitting going. I mean, Jim also alluded to how both the goals were sort of poor defensively, not one step of foot in. But I mean, if you look at the quality of the goals, the quality of the finishes, they're both really good goals. I mean,
yeah,
the first goal, the way that he managed to like curl and bend that ball into the side netting on the opposite side of the goal, was sort of giving Andre no chance. And the second goal was again another from Pozuelo, to twist in and out for a few players before, you know, hitting the target. I mean, they're both good goals. Sometimes you just can't do much about just two quality finishes. Of course, leading up to the goals, could the Union have done better? Yes. Should
yeah.
I'm trying to think. Was it? I'm trying to think who scored the first one. Jimenez. Should Jimenez have had so much space inside the penalty area? No, probably not. But again, you're not always gonna have things go in your favour, and sometimes you've got to hold your hands up and say, okay, that's a good goal, or
But unfortunately, what started that whole movement by Jimenez was the fact that Jose Martinez coughed up the ball, which again was something that we talked
yeah,
about last week. How good he's been lately, not turning the ball over, and then next thing you know, it just seemed like everything that kind of happened last year crept back into the Toronto match a bit. Um,
yeah,
and it is what it is. It happens. Now the problem is it puts more pressure on you this week to go into Chester, bring Montreal in, and basically take care of business. But yeah, I mean, the Toronto game was a bizarre one. I don't think we should think too much into it. It just kind of it was unfortunate luck, throughout basically the entire match. And unfortunately, this team has had a few gimmies, like Jack Elliott's wide open shot to start the game that didn't go through. But
yeah.
Jack Elliott just got engaged, so maybe he's going to have this rejuvenated vibe going into this week. Who knows what's going to happen? But you come back to Chester, and I think you feel much more confident. But One thing
Yeah.
you talked about was the Open Cup from the press conference. So for those of you who haven't been following along all week, the Union, as Dave mentioned, are drawing with Orlando. They're going there May 10th at 7 p.m. But the big news in the Open Cup was the fact that the Crew and the Chicago Fire both lost their matches to non-MLS teams. Specifically, Casper Shabilko hit the crossbar on a PK. So it was one of those weeks where you just scratch your head that so many. Actually, I think Real Salt Lake lost too, if I think about that correctly. I think somebody watching
Let me go
correct.
through. Let me go through
Yeah,
the results quickly. 'Cause they're all up
yeah,
here. I
yeah.
mean, let me just
Well, as you search that,
so it's about to
I
snow.
like I like the fact that
Uh,
this is happening, Dave. The reason why is because this country needs more awareness with soccer, and to have these upsets and to have this excitement brings people to watch these more often. So I'm hoping that
yeah,
these non MLS teams can continue to be competitive because overall it's going to improve the game for the next few years after this if they can continue to compete with the
absolutely.
MLS clubs. Did you
So
happen to
again, looking
find
through
the
the
standings?
results, Columbus, Chicago,
I thought it was Real Salt Lake who lost as well, unless I read that incorrectly.
yeah, Salt Lake, Austin FC all got eliminated.
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, at least if we lose on May 10th, it's to Orlando. So at least you can say, okay, it's another MLS
Yeah,
team. I can't imagine the Philadelphia Twitter if we lost to a non MLS club. It would be just absolute
oh
mayhem
yeah,
across the board. But going to this coming week, Dave, with Montreal, so here's some research I did here. Okay, so first off, I mean, if you guys remember last time we played them, they had the match that Carranza got the red card. Mikael Ua made his debut, and they miraculously turned around a deficit and an overturned goal to score two goals within a minute and a half. But I noticed that Montreal score allows a lot of goals. I think if I pull this up correctly,
yeah,
they give about 16 goals per this season. They've given about 16 goals, so they give up a ton of goals. But
yeah,
what I wanted to look up was the fact that the Union play two strikers up top, um, and I wanted to see how many times Montreal had faced teams that play two strikers up top, just to kind of compare to see like what their records have been. So, like I said, I'm just
yeah,
confirming now. Yeah, goals against for Montreal was 16. So they've played a team with two strikers up top four times. It was Santos in the CCL. It was us, Philly, Cincinnati, and Vancouver. In each of those matches, a forward up top has scored a goal, whether it be
yeah,
the left or the right, doesn't really matter. So that gives me a lot of promise. It gives me some hope. The fact that if we have two strikers up top, more than likely one of them is going to score. And you've had
yeah,
Ua knocking on the door this past 2.5 games. You hope that finally with this particular formation that he can break through and score it because you almost saw him score last time they played them. So I don't know. I'm
yeah,
trying to be optimistic. I'm just trying to find something to speak it into existence, and that review and that stat made me feel a bit more comfortable because we need him to score. I mean, that's just simple
no,
as that.
no, I agree. I mean, again, he just needs to get off the mark, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to come again. He's creating the chances. He's getting in behind. He just needs to take his chance. He just needs to take that one chance. Once he gets one in, the hope is obviously they'll start rolling in. But again, I mean, the unit have shown that they're not exactly sure of people taking great chances or have chance, like take chances. Gazdag, Bedoya,
Hmm.
obviously Carranza, Corey Burke, Sergio, obviously Mikel as well. I mean, there's
Yep.
plenty of players that can make great. Kai Wagner almost scored that great goal,
Oh,
which
that was
sadly got
amazing.
disallowed. So yeah, I mean, again, there's plenty of players. It's just a matter of whether it will come or not.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'm hoping that it does. When you have the May Gauntlet ahead, so that's the whole point of the show, the May Madness. Why we named this because for those of you who don't know, the Union have just about I think 6 games in May, and as Dave alluded to earlier, the travel between LAFC and Orlando going back to the Red Bulls is just awful, especially with the LAFC game being at 11 p.m. It's not
Yeah,
like an 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern game. It is 11 o'clock our time 8 o'clock LAFC time. So it's a very late game. You're most likely not going to leave till the next day on your flight. So For me personally, I think tomorrow they go in there with the A squad. Everybody's in there, no rest. Now everybody's going full throttle.
Yeah,
I do wonder where Jim pulls the trigger with the substitutions, and I'm talking about Finley. I'm talking about Quinn Sullivan. Um, I would like to see maybe
yeah.
Burke start compared to the. I mean, what are your thoughts when you see the schedule ahead of you? Where do you think the substitutions come into play?
The Orlando game.
The
I think
Orlando
they're
game,
taking
okay.
two MLS games seriously.
Hmm.
Again, I mean they're going to be two tough games. And you play your best team in there, and then you say you start Sergio and Burke, Quinn Sullivan, Matt Real, Olivier and Bizo, Stuart Finley, give Matt Freeze a run out in the game against Orlando because I imagine Orlando will be doing something similar because that's how teams do sort of use the Open Cup is to make changes, and it's
Yeah,
not as if Orlando obviously they got the day they play the day before they played. I'll say the day before. They might as well, but I think they play almost 12 hours before the Union's game against LAFC, and of course they're in Canada, so again it's still quite a travel, from the southeast
yeah,
of America. But I mean they got the more rest time, and again they're at home, and then they've got the quick turnaround of 3 days afterwards or 4 days afterwards having to play in Toronto. So again, they'll be doing some similar sort of travelling. Obviously, if,
yeah.
unfortunately for the Union, it'll be afterwards where they have to go all the way back up to Canada. But again, I think the Union would be smart to prioritise the MLS and
Hmm.
use the Open Cup to rotate.
Yeah, it's funny because for years past, the Open Cup has been such a staple for the Union. They've obviously made three Open Cup finals. They've always tried to make that a point of emphasis because they were never at the level of MLS contender. This
Yeah,
year, that's not the case. And for those who haven't seen the schedule yet, on May 1st, Sunday is They're at Nashville. They're at LAFC on May 7th. They're at Orlando May 10th. You are hosting the Red Bulls on May 14th, hosting Miami on May 18th, which is a Wednesday game. You're going to Portland at 10 p.m., which is another late ass game on the
yeah,
22nd of May, and then you're ending in New England at on May 28th on a Saturday. So over the course of May, you have 7 games. I agree with you. I think that if you beat Montreal and you beat them 3-1, for example, great. You had this momentum.
yeah.
I don't think you go to Nashville with your B squad. I think you go
No,
to Nashville, try to make a point, and say like, "Hey, we're here to at least come out with a road point." Especially because we've had a pass of them already. The LAFC match, that's. I think that could be a game where it's the best of the East and the best of the West. And if that's the case, you don't want to send your B squad in there. If you're going to make a
no.
statement, because that's the thing, and I talked about this last week too, is the Union haven't really played anybody. Let's be honest, they really haven't played anybody of significance. So if you go to these next 2 matches, and let's say you pull out a draw in Nashville, and you win against Montreal, you have 2 consecutive games where you're feeling really good about yourself. Why not try to test yourself against LAFC? Because honestly,
Yeah,
what if you ask every single fan right now, they all would rather have an MLS Cup over an Open Cup every single day of the week. And I think if you think of
no, yeah,
this
absolutely.
franchise, they're right now, this particular year, that is their mentality. You have MLS Cup, Supporter Shield, Open Cup. It has to be in that order.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, obviously, the fact the Union have already won a MLS Supporter Shield perhaps
Yep.
may not make it as well desired as an Open Cup, especially with the history the team's had in it.
Mhm.
Maybe that might, for some fans, maybe that might make the Open Cup perhaps more lucrative. But I think, especially in
Fair
this
enough.
sort of thing, especially where like the Open Cup sort of shoved in the middle of like busy periods of the season. Again, I don't mind it. I think that sometimes, especially with the extreme traveling you do have to do in the USA and or in the North American region, sometimes it does take a back seat, which is unfortunate. But again, I think this is a competition I could see the Union using as a chance to get like um, fringe players minutes until perhaps they get further into the tournament, get to the quarterfinals, semi-finals. Then you will probably start seeing full strength teams in there and like the fringe players getting
Yeah.
appearances in the MLS. I think that might be the only scenario where we do see that. I mean, again, as we were saying, like that busy schedule month, Jim loves to push his players to the limit. He doesn't just
Yeah.
go, okay, look, you guys have played 4 games in 12 days. I'll give 3 or 4 of you a rest. So go, Ali Bedoya, you're almost, 36, 37 years old? Nah, you'll be right. You can do another 90 minutes after playing have 270 minutes in a week. You can do it again, Ali. Don't worry about that. Do you know what I mean? Jim
Yeah.
doesn't like squad rotation. He doesn't like to make substitutions to certain players, and it
Nope.
wouldn't shock me at all if Andy Bedoya is playing in the, he's actually playing in the Open Cup game if he somehow manages to make his way into that team. But yeah, I mean, it again. He's always reluctant to change the team, and we've seen it throughout even during the CCL early periods of the CCL last year when it was clashing with the season a bit. Jim didn't make changes then. We'd have the game on the
No.
Monday. On the week, we'd have the full strength team. He'd played the exact same team in the midweek game and the exact same team after that. So I think Jim was always hesitant. Is always hesitant to make changes. He doesn't want to make the changes, even if the team's struggling to lose, and he still keeps with the strongest team and doesn't like squad rotation. So I'm interested to see his approach during this busy month.
Yeah, I mean, if, I'm trying to think right now. So, like, if you look at the reserves, I think you'll definitely see Olivier Mbaizo at right back during the Open Cup game, in my opinion. Which
Yeah,
is, I mean, honestly, overall fine. If you're thinking about the backups and the reserves, like who do you think plays these positions, right? I could see a formation of who's left back. Is Sorensen a left back or is Craig a left back? Or Craig's a center back, right? I believe
Matt Rea,
Sorensen's left. Matt Real. Okay, yeah, thank you. So let's say left back Matt Real. You have probably Stuart Finley. I can foresee either Jack or Glessness in there, one of the two, and you're gonna have Olivier.
yeah,
I can see Leon being pushed to the six and having Jack McGlynn on the left. I can see something like that.
yeah,
Sullivan on the right, Paxson at the 10, and then maybe Mikael and actually no, probably Sergio and Burke up top, or
yeah,
Sergio and maybe Carranza. The problem with Sergio is the fact that he was just recently injured, and also with his schedule, he can't play. So for those who don't know, if you ever have a week when there's 3 games, he will most likely not play one of those because his soft tissue injury history suggests that he can't make 3 games in 1 week. So it's very curious to see how much they push Sergio right now because if you can have him healthy by June 1st, that's a massive win off the bat,
yeah.
without
No, I
question.
agree. But I think again. I mean, again, the likely scenario is he will probably start one of those 3 games, and it will be the Orlando game. So again, if you
Yeah.
just give him bit part roles and substitute roles in the other 2 games, which is the 2 games beforehand, which is likely in the game afterwards, I mean, you'll probably end up seeing Sergio probably start one of those 4 games.
Yeah. Hmm.
Obviously, presuming there's no injuries to the other 2 strikers in that period. Again, I going off the top of my head for the sort of team I can imagine them playing in the Open Cup, it'll probably be obviously Matt Freese in goal,
Yep.
Bizo, Finley, Elliot, Matt Real, Bueno,
Oh yeah, Bueno. I forgot about him. Yeah, that's right.
probably Jack McGlynn, Quinn Sullivan. Actually, no, Jack McGlynn. It will be Bueno, it will be Jack McGlynn, it will be Bedoya, and it will be Paxton or Quinn Sullivan, and then it will be Sergio and Corey up front. I'll put money on
See,
playing
I
that game.
forgot. Yeah, I forgot about Bueno. You're right. So I think you're right. I think Bueno would be the sixth. Then is that what you're suggesting? Right.
Yeah,
Okay. Now I
because
think
obviously he's
Jim.
for the Union too, hasn't
That's true. He does play with the Union too. He scored a goal a couple weeks ago. So if you think about the forward position as well, I think Jim kind of gave us a sneak peek into what he's going to do for the Open Cup. He mentioned a couple weeks ago that Quinn Sullivan is a Swiss Army knife, and that
he? Yeah,
him being at the forward position, although out of position, is something that he feels very comfortable doing. I think that was his way of saying, come Open Cup time, or come, you know, tough schedule, Quinn Sullivan's going to make more of an appearance up top. So I can see a scenario
yeah,
where alongside Sergio, and then you have Paxton behind them. You have McGlynn, Bueno, and on the right, maybe Bedoya and somebody else. It depends. It depends on maybe they put McGlynn on the right and put Flock on the left and put Bueno on the six. There's a lot you can kind of play around with. And you also have
yeah.
I think that's everybody. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot or he changes the formation, which I don't think he will, but that's also a
No, he won't
possibility too.
change wouldn't change the formation. I mean, I'd be
No.
very shocked if Bedoya doesn't play. I mean, that the formation change. That'd be something. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think again, obviously looking at the game as well this weekend against Montreal, I think I mean, again, it's a good way to sort of get yourself off on a good foot. I mean, obviously, again with 3 road games in a row, you may not come away with a result in either of those 2 league games. So again, if
Yep.
you're or a win anyway. I mean, if you want to, it'd be great if you could just go get a win against Montreal, and again that sets you up nicely still for the games ahead. I mean, obviously Orlando have played a game more than Union, they're only 2 points behind. So that game in hand, even if the Union could still end up in and around Orlando in that stretch. But again, it's gonna be it could be it's something good to get these two East Western games in the schedule out of the way early doors. Whilst all the teams are starting here, because Jim said teams don't really you can't really judge teams 6, 7 games into the season, maybe after
No.
10 or 11. So that'll be the period where we get to know what sort of team the Union really are, whether they are going to be true contenders, whether they are, whether they're a team that you think can be at the top, or it's to settle for a 3rd or 4th seed in the Eastern Conference and have to grind their way into try and grind their way to the MLS Cup like they did last year. So I think again that'll be a nice little period, a good tested period where we might begin to know more about the identity of this team.
Well, there's a few things he touched on. I mean, for one, I think a lot of Union fans were upset with this schedule. They were kind of like pissed off by it. For me personally, I
Yeah,
agree with you. I think it's great. I think you need to test this team, and if you're going to test them in May when the points don't matter as much. As much. I say that lightly. I think every game matters, but I think if you're going to drop points, do it in May, not August or September. So, I do like that it's an early test for the team. I
yeah,
do want to say, so we've played a handful of games. We have not scored more than 2 goals in any match this season. And I think sometimes the second goal, even that has been very hard to come by. I really want to
yeah,
see tomorrow a 3-goal appearance. I want to see them put 3 goals away or more. I think that would be huge entering this May month to have that monkey off your bat saying, okay, we're
yeah,
not just going to get lucky off a keeper mistake. We're not just going to get lucky off a
yeah.
PK or something ridiculous. We're actually
Well,
going to go out and score the goals we're supposed to score. So
yeah.
I'm excited to have that happen. I'm excited for that. But one game I'm worried
Let's
about
say
in the
about.
schedule. Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
As I said, well, the last time the Union just scored 3 in a game, or competitive game anyway, was the 3rd of October against Columbus. It hasn't been done in some time. I know there's been like a 3-month break, or
Hmm.
a 2.5 month break. But I mean, maybe nothing, a 3-month break. So again, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if when they finally do it. So hopefully, this could be the weekend where um, what's the word? Well, they somewhat settle some scores. Settle like
Yeah.
really get into things. I mean, again, they're due to score 3 goals, so maybe why not? Why not this weekend?
I mean, yeah, you're facing a team who's given up 16 goals this year. Why not
Yeah,
against them? They
don't see
have been,
frail.
yeah, they've been playing better, as you mentioned, of late. But overall, I mean, you're at home, you should be able to handle business. But then, the one game that worries me, Dave, honestly, is the Miami match on Wednesday. Um, it's Wednesday, May 18th. Then we also play Portland on May 22nd. So you'll be coming off the high of the Red Bulls game. And then on Sunday, the following match, you're going to Portland. So there is a bit of a letdown spot
Yeah,
against Miami because if you beat the Red Bulls, which you should at home, you have Miami come into Chester, which they beat us in Chester last year, so I'm hoping they don't forget that. But there is a bit of, well, it's Miami, we should kick their fucking ass and then take care of Portland, but then you don't because you lose because you're not prepared. So that is one
yeah,
game in particular that I'm actually very concerned with because you can go ahead and draw Nashville. You can go ahead and draw LAFC and beat Orlando and beat the Red Bulls. Congratulations. But if you drop points to Miami at home,
yeah.
it's the kind of it
It's
doesn't
sort of the gimme
negate
game,
what you
isn't it?
you don't negate what you just did, but you certainly put a bit of a damper on it at least in my opinion.
Yeah, especially again, obviously, you play Miami, and then if you can get through that, that Miami, Portland, and New England stretch, we say 6 points, 4 to
Yeah.
7 points. I think you'd probably take that. I mean, again, the Revs had a tough start to the season because of the
Yeah.
CCL. But again, you're already now starting to see, now they're out of it. They're starting to pick up now. So they beat Charlotte at the weekend. So I mean, yeah, they're now out of it, and now they perhaps it took them a bit of time to recover. I mean, again, they lost to Charlotte, they lost to the Red Bulls, and they lost into Miami. Ironically, two of the three teams the Union will play before they face them in England. So again, it'll be a good tester to see in that stretch before the long break into the summer whereabouts they are. Because I think again, if they can, um, I think it's a weird thing to look at. But if you take the season in sort of in little installments and little stretches, so like again, the Montreal National LAFC game, if they can get 4 points out of that, you'd probably take it. Again, the
Yeah.
Open Cup, you'll just leave it its own. Then the full game little stretch before the break against Red Bulls into Miami, Portland, and New England. If you could take 7 points from that, you'd probably take it. Because again,
Yes.
Portland's no mugs.
No.
So if they won the MLS title last. No, it was New. They got to
No.
the
No.
MLS Cup final last year. Sorry.
Yep.
So everywhere they turn, they've got difficult games. So
Yeah.
again, they're just going to have to take it in little stages and just try and accumulate as many points as possible if they want to stay where they are. So again, I mean, a support shield and run the playoffs wouldn't be terrible, would it?
No, I mean, I think if you're the Eastern Conference teams, you're seeing the Union schedule and licking your chops. Like this is if we're ever going to cover
Yeah,
ground on the Union, who are still in first place, this is going to be the month that we do it. Because in June they only have 3 games, but it's at home against NYFC, at home at Cincinnati, and at Chicago.
yeah,
I think you could win 3 of those games, if not at least win 2 of the 3. Um, so you have a bright future with June, especially the first game in June is against Cincinnati. That is like your, easy game of the month, personally. So
yeah,
if you are able to get a draw in Portland, you would have Miami, New England, Cincinnati in 3 of the 4 games around the Portland game. So
yeah.
that is a very easy stretch over, like easy with quotation marks. Like it's still the MLS. It's still hard to win games, but
No,
um,
yeah,
it makes me feel very promising. If you get to Miami on a good note, now the ball's in your court. You are now the better team for most of these games. You should go out there and handle business after that.
yeah. No, I agree. I mean, as you said again, that's sort of they just need to go into that structure games. And again, as you said, they need to take it seriously. They can't underplay any opponents. You can't play these tough games against Nashville, LAFC, the Red Bulls, and go. I mean, yeah, we've gone through the stretch, certainly into Miami, and then undermine them, underplay just how dangerous of a team they are. I mean, albeit I know they are notoriously crap for what they are. They have been since they've come into the league. Because again, I think I don't know who said it, but someone said they aren't not a franchise or a team. They're more of a brand.
Yeah,
And I mean, again, they've still got players like Leo Campana, who's on loan from Wolves, is causing heck right now. I think how many goals he scored? He scored 4 goals in the MLS. I think he scored a hat trick against the Revs. He scored the winner against Miami FC in the Open Cup
nice.
just earlier in the week. So again, it's a tough run. I don't think there's many games you look at and go, that's an easy game in MLS because
Yeah,
it's one of the more surprising leagues in the world where you have no clue what's going to happen on any given match day. But again, I think if the Union can keep taking things as they are, because again they've picked up some good wins to start the year. I mean, San Jose, I know obviously they didn't play their best game against the Union,
hmm
but again, San Jose. Uh, I mean, again, obviously the bottom of the table, but I think again last year they weren't the worst team,
no,
and the Union took it off to a good start. And Charlotte again, they've caused some problems for some decent teams in this league this year.
yeah,
Most notably the Revs, who absolutely pissed the Eastern Conference last year. So again, and they've come into this league and they won. They won a couple of games. They beat Atlanta United. So again, it's any given day. I mean, San Jose game was probably a game we looked at and said they should win. Even that New York City game, I think
yeah,
we perhaps thought that the team would struggle because again, the Union haven't always had the best luck on the road, but they went there and they were clinical and they got the 2 goals
yeah.
and stop and just killed the game for them, FC. So any given days. I mean, again, last week, so I'm sure I'm rambling on here, but even last week, me and you
No,
were
yeah,
sitting here thinking, John, we could see the Union winning here and getting a strong result. They couldn't take their chances, and Toronto had produced some more quality in finishing. So it's
hmm
going to be, it's going to be a difficult stretch. This next 2-3 weeks, the Open Cup game. I mean, again, the Open Cup game could prove to end up being sort of a nice sort of relief of pressure in terms of the stress of the other games. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we can rotate, we can just see how we go. We don't. Do you know what I mean? It could be a nice sort of change of pace for the Union.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it'll give you an idea of what the backups can do, the reserves can do, and give them confidence as well. Because
Yeah,
unfortunately, there'll be a time when one of those players are injured or need some rest, and you need to see what they can do. So, someone like Finley, for me personally, all eyes are on Finley that match, which I'm sure he's going to play. So, I'm all eyes are on
fingers
him
crossed.
to
Yeah,
see what he can do. Yeah, and just even players like Paxton, who really hasn't seen a lot of time for as much praise and admiration as people give Paxton, he really hasn't played any significant minutes this year, minus maybe one game.
no,
He's been coming in late, very late into the matches. So to me, that's an opportunity to me to see him and see what he can do and finally like display what he's able of doing, which we know he can do, which we saw last year when he played against
yeah,
New England. So there's a lot to look forward to. The Union are at 16 points. They're 2 points ahead of Orlando, who are at 14. I even noticed that DC United's at 6 points so far in the season. NYCFC has seven, and as you mentioned, San Jose, they have 3 points so far. I mean, that's just terrible.
that's what I mean. Like, it's
That's
just
awful.
it's terrible. I mean, that's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
any given Sunday, it's how unpredictable the league is. I think again, DC United were a solid team last year. I mean, NYCFC again were a solid, very good team last year. So I mean, again, obviously, there's also sort of the early paces of the season, so you never know what's going to hit you. You never know what's going to come. So I think
Yep.
it's always difficult to sit here and make predictions because
Hmm.
it's the hardest league in the world to win on the road, and having two very tough road games in Nashville and AFC, then having to go to Orlando, it's going to be about pace. The Union have to pace themselves. But
Yeah,
again, I think the experience of last year of having to cram in the CCL and travelling on a continental level will certainly, well, perhaps that experience may do them a big favour. It may carry with them, and it could end up working a favour, not just
I
in
agree.
that sort of weeks or 10-day stretch, but throughout the season when they have to go to have a long hours travel and then come back and on the quick like turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, the Union showed last year that they can handle a grueling schedule, as we saw in that first month and a half.
Yeah,
So I'm optimistic. Like I said, I'm excited for it. I want to test our team, and I think if you come out of May on a good note, oh my gosh, you better watch out because this team could legitimately make a run for the MLS Cup. If you come out of May
yeah,
on a
no,
on
absolutely.
winning four of the seven games and drawing a couple, oh my goodness, the city is going to be electric. So I'm excited to see.
Yeah,
Hopefully, they don't let us down. It's not the other way around. That would be a
no,
disappointment. But Dave, tomorrow the game is at 3 p.m. I will be at the stadium to watch. Dave, are you going to be traveling with Gills, or are you going to be watching the
no.
game, or
I'll be watching the end, but
you're
I'll
watching
sort of
the
have
game?
on a
Okay.
multicast. I have the sixes on one screen.
Yes.
When you're, I mean,
Awesome.
actually, just quickly before we go off, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Why are the MLS trying to compete with the NBA?
I because
That doesn't make sense.
The NBA doesn't make as much. It doesn't have as much viewers as you think. To be honest with you. Besides the
I mean,
Philadelphia
obviously,
area, yeah.
yeah. I mean, obviously, playoff time anyway. I mean, like the playoffs is obviously going to be more difficult to compete with. I mean, it doesn't. That's just me.
I don't disagree with you, but listen, the NBA. Some of these NBA games have been great. Some of them have been not so phenomenal. So,
No.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's all scheduling stuff. But
Don't think many moments will top the. So I don't think many moments will top that Embiid 3-pointer with
oh my
point
god,
0.9 seconds on game clock remaining. I don't think may not do that. I was at
I hate to
work
get
on the shop floor
yeah.
working,
Mhm.
and I remember I ended up watching like the last 20 seconds. I thought, "Fuck, them actually won this." Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, listen, for people who give Doc Rivers crap, and I'm one of them. I think we all both give Doc Rivers crap. He drew up the right play for
Yeah,
the right time, and
yeah,
he outcoached Nurse in that very moment.
no,
So tip my hat
um,
off where credit's due
absolutely.
there. Yeah,
It's
but
proved us wrong all series so far. So I mean, long may it continue.
yeah, 3-0. I mean, you can't beat that. You
Yeah,
go in there, you took care of business, and without Matisse on the one game too.
yeah.
So
And I mean, they were the ones overturning a 15 deficit this time. So I mean, who
yeah.
knows?
So Dave, last question here. What is your prediction for tomorrow's match?
I think again, needed always strong at home. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, it's very rarely they lose. I don't want to set it up for again, any given Sunday, I'm going to put
Don't
that in there
jinx it.
before I put my prediction. But any given Sunday, you never know. But I think I can see a. I'll go 3-1. I'll go 3-1. They're going to score 3 goals.
I was gonna say that too. Damn it! I was gonna say 3-1, 3-0, 3-0. I thought was being a bit generous. I think they could do it. I think Montreal
Yeah.
is gonna score though. Unfortunately, maybe like a
No,
late
yeah, they
goal
got the
after you're up
firepower.
3-0. Yeah, they have some firepower. I think it's gonna be 3-1 as well. I think you're gonna get Dave. I'm gonna say it. You're gonna get 2 goals tomorrow from Mika Ua. You're gonna get a brace
That's
from
a big.
him,
That's a
and then
big shout.
that's a big one. I'm doing it. I'm saying it. I feel it in my soul. I feel that he's going to score tomorrow. I'm going to agree with Steven, and I'm going to agree with everybody else.
Yeah,
I think he scores. I think he puts 2 away tomorrow, and I think that the third goal will be,
that'd be big.
yeah, maybe Bedoya or Elliot. I think Elliot recently engaged, gets a
Yeah.
header finally. I think those are the 2 goal scores. What are you thinking tomorrow
No. Yeah.
for the goal
I mean, yeah,
scores?
we're
I
going
should
to
say.
keep bashing the. We're going to keep bashing in the UR horse until he finally does score. I think that'll be a weekly prediction until he finally does find the back on that. But I think, yeah, I think if he's going to score, hopefully it'd be nice to score it in front of the home crowd. Get a real celebration out of it. I think he'll definitely score one. I could see.
Hmm.
I think Gazdag might chip in with another goal.
Yeah,
Just screw it. I mean, this man's due a goal. Jose Martinez is due a goal.
there he is.
35, 35, 40 yard power from nowhere, top corner. There you go. So,
Hey, listen,
yeah,
it's bound to
that's
happen
my prediction.
eventually. All right, Dave. Well, listen, tomorrow
As I
night.
say,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say, as I say about this one player for Gills who always scores every season. He hasn't scored this year. He's due a goal. Jose Martinez is due a goal. So Jose Martinez, first goal scorer. You need to win 3-1. That's my prediction.
First goal scorer. Oh goodness, I don't have to put a bet on that one. That sounds pretty juicy. All right, Dave. Like I said, tomorrow 3 o'clock p.m. You can follow us at Emberair1323. You can follow Dave Miller at Dave GFC Miller on Twitter. AAT Sports Network. We'll have all the coverage. Probably join us around 2:15, 2:20 when the lineups come out. Match coverage as well as post game press conference. But until then, Dupe tomorrow, Montreal. Let's go.
Mm, go Union.